Bring in Adam Kinzinger, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and a pilot for the Air National Guard. Good to see you this morning.
You too. Thanks.
What do you make of these attacks in Iran? Because it really seems to highlight the sectarian divide, and we believe it's a first.
Yes, this is opening up a new front for ISIS. We like to think, look, we're competitors, we're enemies with Iran, we're enemies with ISIS. Therefore, it's weird to us that ISIS would attack Iran because we kind of think in an American-centric way. The reality is Iran is a Shia population. ISIS is predominantly Sunni. And what you have right now is, as ISIS is losing territory, so keep in mind, they can recruit people based on this idea of the coming prophesied next caliphate. And as ISIS was growing, it's really easy to convince somebody that believes this, that this is in fact that caliphate, come join. Well, now that ISIS is losing territory, it's really hard to convince somebody that you are the foretold caliphate when in fact you're getting your backside kicked in. And so they're opening up these fronts in Europe and elsewhere in order to try to recruit more people. It's lashing out. And I think this is when the President and the United States of America and our allies need to double down and realize that it's in this moment that we redouble our efforts to destroy this organization. But it's a longer-term fight than just this immediate fight, too.
Yeah, and right now it seems that the efforts are centered on Raqqa. We know that's been the de facto capital for ISIS. The U.S. envoy in that area, Brett McGurk, says that basically people have to be prepared for the fact that this is going to be a difficult, very long-term battle. You talked about the fact that you could try to annihilate one of these groups, whether it's ISIS or al-Qaeda. We see any number of iterations, but something else will pop up. As you've said, it's more about the ideology, because you can change the names of these groups, but the underlying ideology.
Yeah, that's it. You have to defeat the ideology. You're not going to defeat the ideology with an M4 or a 500-pound bomb. You're going to do it, A, from within Islam. Just like in the Cold War, it took us 50 years for the next generations to come along and overthrow the Iron Curtain by saying they want the freedom that we had. So you're going to do it that way. And you also have to make sure that the 7- and 8-year-olds in refugee camps right now, the displaced kids, if they're denied the ability to learn to read and write, or education, or opportunity, or hope, they're fertile recruiting ground for that next generation of ISIS or al-Qaeda. So just as important as taking this fight to ISIS and liberating territory is, and it's really important, and the President's doing a good job of it, we have to continue to do our best to invest in that next generation of kids in the Middle East, because if we don't do it with our allies, frankly, it's not going to happen, and we're going to fight these people in 5 or 6 years, unfortunately.
Yeah, and obviously one of the toughest psychological impacts are the civilian casualties that are bound to happen in these cases. And we have reports out of Raqqa that ISIS is threatening anybody who tries to leave, because we're trying to, and coalition forces trying to warn civilians, you need to get out. And we now have reports that ISIS is holding public executions of families that try to leave. We have to remember what kind of people we're dealing with.
You're dealing with very demonic people, and I guarantee the devil and his demons are hanging around enjoying what's happening over there. This is very tragic. This is why, again, we have to redouble our efforts. But I think the American people need to know that in this coming fight in Raqqa, you're going to hear about a lot of civilian casualties, and it's not because we're being reckless. It's because ISIS is threatening to kill anybody that leaves, because they want to use them as bargaining chips and put them in houses and near targets so that if they're struck, they can say, oh, look at all these civilian casualties. This is an evil group that has to be crushed, and thankfully the men and women of the United States military are well poised to do it and the best trained in the history of the world.
Yes, they are. We thank you that you are one of them and serving in multiple capacities in Washington and beyond. Congressman, good to see you.